So in our last video, we finished our silhouette of our fish. We cut it in half, and now what we're going to do is we're going to mirror it. We're also going to add a subdivision modifier to it. You can see from this that part of what we're dealing with in our fish is we got these very square cross sections coming out. And I don't want to go through and model these by bringing them down. I'd have to add a middle subdivision to that too, which we'll actually probably do that anyway. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this a little bit sideways. If I add some cross sections here, let's do one, and then I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go ahead and go into orthographic mode, perspective mode from orthographic by hitting 5 on the number pad. And I'm going to also go into solid mode so in the viewport so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, in my properties editor, I'm going to widen that out a little bit, make things a little bit thicker here, and I'm going to go over to the modifiers. I'm going to first add a subdivision surface modifier, and so I'm going to go down to subdivision surface there, and I'm going to go ahead and maybe crank that up to 2 in the view and 4 or 5 in the render. And if I look at this in orthographic from the front, it still kind of comes out quite a bit, so we'll move that in a little bit. Part of that's because I added this middle section here and that kind of pushed parts further away. I'm going to go and also do a mirror modifier for this so I can see it a little bit better. So I'm going to go to the add modifier set, I'm going to go down to mirror. Now I have the other half of the fish. I also want these to be seen as smooth, so I'm going to select everything. I'm going to go over into my tools menu in the viewport, and I'm going to go down to where it says shading and UVs. I'm going to click on smooth under faces, and there I have nice fish. I'm going to go ahead and tab out. And so there's the start of my fish. Looks much smoother, much better than in the last one. I still want it to look a little bit more rounded, so we're going to do some editing there in just a moment, but we're going to add for some other parts in the fish as well. So I'm going to do tab to go into edit mode, and I want to provide an area for my fin for my fish, and I also want to add a area for a top fin and bottom fin. And so we'll work on those in this video as well. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into my orthographic for the moment. I'm going to hit 3 to look at it from the side. Here I can see that line that I put in, and it kind of goes the width of the fish here. And it's not far from where I have my line down here. Okay. So what I want to do is I could actually use the knife tool for this if I want, and I could do a section coming in here and all the way through. I could make another line going very close to this one, so I could do Control R and just put in another loop cut all the way across, bring it up fairly close like so. And there's some reasons why I might want to do that instead. I'm going to go ahead and select some portions of this line and the top one as well. I'm going to bring those down a little bit like so. We'll see how that affects the model in just a minute. And I'm going to go ahead and take this bottom one, and we'll actually lower that down even a little bit more. These kind of go straight here, so I want it to look a little bit different. Than I'm going to go ahead and click on vertices for the selection mode. I'm going to just kind of smooth those out manually here a little bit. And this is pretty close to where that one starts, but I want to go ahead and just maybe refine this a little bit. Maybe I want to split this and split this one so that it's not going all that way. To do that, I can hit K for activating the knife tool and come over here, click, select those like so, hit enter to insert knife cuts. And I can do K over here, and we can do that as well. One of the things that we talked about in an earlier video is that working with quads is more ideal for doing things like subdivision surfaces. It'll always do its best, and it doesn't look bad to me at all right there. And so we could work on figuring out ways of making that a little bit nicer, nicer looking, etc. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave that this way. What I want to do now is I'm going to take these surfaces and I want to get it so my fish is a little bit more rounded. And I'm going to just select that contour there and this one up here. Maybe I don't even select the ones there. Let's see what happens if we leave those out of this. I don't want to select the entire loop cut because I want to go around the whole object. But I can do S and Z. I'm going to pull this down a little bit towards each other. And I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my orthographic. Actually, it wasn't orthographic. I'm going to hit 1 for looking at it from the front. And just to give me a little bit idea of how my fish is curving. I don't want to pull this directly this way because, as you can see, it's going to cross over. That's going to do weird things. So what I want to do is I'm going to switch to my 3D cursor here. And so I'm going to go and select 3D cursor. And then I'm going to do SX so it scales down in just the X direction. So it's basically just telling it to be thinner as it goes. And it is shaping that a little bit differently, but that actually doesn't look bad to me there. Let's see what it looks like from the side. Okay, let's do perspective. So switch from orthographic, and you can even render it just really quick just to see what it looks like. And that doesn't look too bad to me. So now what I want to do is I want to start working on my fin section. On the side, and so I'm going to switch to face mode, and I'm going to take all of that area there, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude it out a little bit. I'm going to go back into orthographic, and so I hit E to extrude. I'm going to go ahead and thin out some of these a little bit, or straighten them out, I guess you could say. So that they're more in a line. And to do that, I could take these top sections, and then I'm going to go back to median. So I'm going to select on pivot point. I'm going to change it to median instead of the 3D cursor. If I do S and Z, I'll average that out a little bit. Again, I'm just kind of looking to see how that looks over on the side. And then I'm going to do a little bit of that here as well, holding shift, selecting those faces, not the back one, and do S and Z, kind of giving it a little bit more of an average, and I think that'll look okay. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to actually take this one and move it a little bit closer. I'm going to take off the back facing planes there so that I don't see through the object, make it a little bit easier to select what I'm trying to. I'm going to bring that back towards the fish a little bit. I'm going to hit E one more time. I'm going to do S and Z to make it a little bit thinner. And especially like in this last box here, let's just take the last two vertices and do those thinner, these guys thinner. Okay, so that's not looking too bad there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to select those faces again. And I'm going to look at it from the front. I'm going to do S and X to kind of flatten it out a little bit more. And I'm going to bring it down, which is going to make it thinner as I pull it down anyway. I'm going to rotate it a little bit. And this might be too much of a downward swoop for this. Okay, so I'm going to just look at it the way it is. I'm going to hit E again. Okay. Pull that out there, rotate a little bit, and I'm going to do S for scale. I can move it sideways here in a little bit, or I could just switch back and forth and say, okay, is this kind of the way that I want it to look? Over here, I'm going to go to edge just for the moment and select around there. I'm going to do scale this in quite a bit and move it that way, maybe not scale that much. And actually I didn't want to thin it down, so I'm going to undo that. S and Y, bring it in like that, bring this forward, there we go. And then I'm going to select the last set of cuts that we did here. So I'll go ahead and just select those faces. There we are. And then we're going to do S and Y. Pull it in a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and look at it from the front again. Extruding that out. Going back to the side. And I could actually almost even stop close to there if I did one more section. I don't have to go as far and make it as long as I did there. Let's actually, before we do that, okay, that's interesting. Escape. See? And I'm going to rotate it again a little bit. If I rotate it before I extrude it, then it'll adjust that angle out the way that I want. And I'm going to do quite a bit and move it a little bit further back like so. Not nearly as far back as what I had here, although I could always add just a little bit of a element there. Sometimes you see the goldfish with the long, straggly little strips there. So whatever you want it to look like there, that looks pretty good. And before we stop this one, let's go ahead and take care of the top part of the fish here. So I could add just a loop cut going down the length of it, Control R. And that could give me some area to work with, both a top loop cut and such. And I could see kind of that line over here from that. Maybe I want it to be a little bit more rounder, so I can do S, Z, and make my fish so that he's not as flat there. Although I probably should have done the scaling without the tail selected, so I'm going to undo that. And then we'll do Z, V for box select, and I'm going to hold down the middle mouse button, just drag over back into the tail, and I'm going to go ahead and deselect that part. by the tail. So again, all of this is just